Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computer Stuke now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next 2 hours, along with Nick.
Hi.
Good morning.
Morning.
And Mike is here.
He is here.
He is here. And Gal is here.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Spence is in England.
Slacker.
They don't have internet in England?
Well,
Right.
he's on a boat in England, right?
They
Yeah.
don't have internet on boats in England?
Yeah, they do.
They have. Probably cost too much. What's the
Cost is
time
not an
there?
object. Ask Nick.
Our number is 919-518-9773. Computer Stuke Wars on Skype. And today's show is made possible by VMix Software, Telestream's Wirecast software, and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. I keep getting those messages from Facebook that Spence was at such and such point, check in and check out, and
Oh, so they do have internet.
they do have internet.
Mm.
Amnon, you're the most bizarre Facebook user I've ever met.
Why?
Amnon will only check. Listen to this, Gal and Mike. Amnon will only check Facebook if they send him an email notification
That's it.
that something happened.
That's it.
Totally defeats the whole purpose of the social network.
Well, I mean, I'm even worse than Amnon because I disabled because I used to use it a lot. I disabled all email notification, everything, right?
Yeah.
So now the only reason I log in is to post that we're on the show.
And you know something? If I wasn't doing what I'm doing here at Nissan Communications, I would cancel my Facebook account.
Well, then how would we be friends?
So, we will.
Nick, you don't you don't understand. Whenever Zuckerberg and company were designing Facebook, they didn't call Amnon and ask him what his needs
Right.
were.
I don't know. I'm like, Amnon, did you see this on Facebook? No, I didn't get an email. I'm like, well, okay.
Well, next time tag him,
Yeah.
and he'll get an email.
I don't know. Do you get an email if somebody tags you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but you know what? I think
Good idea, Gal.
I think 9 times out of 10, when you get those emails and you click see it on Facebook or whatever, it doesn't go there.
Huh?
It goes and it asks you to log in, and then you're on your own page and saying, okay, let me go back and click on it now that I'm logged in. It may have to do with those containers, though, because I go back and I click on it again and it opens another session.
I have a solution for you.
Well, I mean, it's just,
And it's very important that you mentioned Firefox because there's a problem with Firefox right now.
right now, yeah.
Yeah. They're calling it
I don't know why.
Armageddon. Yeah. It's the second Armageddon, seems. The first one when they switched to what they call, don't remember the name they gave but version 57, when they dropped all old extensions.
Yeah.
But that time, that was by design, that was planned, and now we're at the second time, which is a malfunction, something to do with a certificate expiring and making all of the extensions basically be marked as expired. And what happens is anybody launching Firefox in the past 24 hours would notice that almost, if not all, their extensions are disabled and marked as legacy extensions that should be removed and alternative finds. There's a solution actually. It's a bit technical, but it's not complex. There's a piece of code that you can dump in the browser console. There's instructions on a Reddit thread. I'll paste it in the chat for anyone who's using Firefox and this is driving them nuts. And once you do that, until they fix it, and it sounds like they've already started pushing hotfixes in the background, at least by their Twitter feed. Once they until they push it every 24 hours from the first time you got the error, you'll need to run this code in order to refresh the existing extensions. But the workaround works, and it's a good one. I bookmarked it yesterday.
The truth is, when I read about it yesterday, I realized that it did not affect Firefox on my machine. And I said, well, I guess it's not affecting everybody. When I came here this morning and I started the laptop and it has Firefox on it, it came up with a banner, a yellow banner that said that there's a problem. So I went there and I didn't see it. I mean, everything is working.
Yeah, so some extent, for example, the container extension is currently disabled.
But it's not. That's exactly what I was looking at on my machine. And I saw, I mean, in my field, my address book, it says TMP1, TMP2, TMP3, TMP4. It kept on working. So I said, well, it's not affecting me.
Interesting. Maybe they roll it out on the extensions themselves, and so some extensions were updated already and some have not.
Maybe, I don't know, but the thing is, it could be a problem if you're a heavy user of extensions and I don't know, the add-ons.
Yeah, I usually
then don't. I mean, what I was reading, it said, uninstalling them and reinstalling them is not going to do it. So don't try to fix it because they will issue something to fix it.
Right. So the Reddit link provides a fix, and it's valid. I used it. It works. Follow the instructions. You'll need to go to About Config and enable something called DevTools Chrome enabled. You'll need to switch that to true. And then by clicking Control-Shift-J, it'll open the browser console, and then the code that you copy paste into the browser console, you run that, and like magic, everything's back on.
Nick,
by the way, if you wanna know which add-ons have been disabled for you, if you Control-Shift-A or go to the add-on page and you scroll to the bottom, you'll see those who are marked as legacy. They'll be marked in different. They'll stick.
But I don't think Nick or Mike are using Firefox.
Nada.
Yeah.
Even with this, I still highly recommend it.
I use 3 browsers at one time.
That's good. Then you're not going to see those effects.
I don't care. It doesn't work. I switched. The reason I switched to Firefox is because of all the stuff that doesn't work in Chrome.
I finally took out Chrome on Kathy's machine, and that's a Windows 10, because she kept on telling me that when she clicks on a link, it doesn't open up. And I would go there and I would try it, and sure enough, it won't open up. And I go and I click on Chrome, and it won't open up. Control-Alt-Delete, and Task Manager shows that it's running about 7 times. So you kill it all, and then everything is working. But it's happening, and she's not doing much on the computer. So I finally installed Firefox. I deleted the shortcuts to Chrome from everywhere on the start bar and then on the desktop. I told her, I said, everything is there. I imported passwords and her bookmarks. And since then, everything is fine. And I can understand if it was on Windows 7, but it's Windows 10, and it's still funny. Yep. So don't worry if you see Firefox not showing or telling you that there's a problem with your add-ons. You're just gonna have to bear with it, or you do what Gal just posted over here in the chat. And as far as making, yeah, that's another thing I was going to talk about. As far as making this chat be responsive to or work with links that you can just click on it, it's going to take some time. And this weekend, we tried to install the newer version of this PHP chat, and it's completely different. And Ron didn't have much time, so I said, okay, then never mind. We'll just leave things alone, and when you have time, we'll sit down and do it. And besides, I don't know that that's going to fix it.
I thought you know
right.
everything.
The what?
I thought you know everything.
I no, don't I wish? Don't I wish?
That's what Mike's here for. What do you mean?
Keep telling you.
Uh-huh.
Hey, what are you gonna do?
Nick thinks I know everything. Mike, you got a minute? Yeah. I need to go to the bathroom. Do you think that'll be okay?
Yeah, real funny, Mike. Okay, I see how it is.
Mike, come on. You were very convincing, and Nick is a young man. He falls
You
for it.
call me gullible?
But there were people at his age running Google at one point. And they came up with Chrome, and you see how that worked out.
Best browser that ever has existed.
For a time.
Yep.
Definitely. For a time.
They all take turns. I mean,
Yep.
Firefox,
Yeah.
I quit using Firefox because it got so bloated.
Right. Amnon, by the way, to
Yes,
solve
sir.
your first Facebook links issue, one of the add-ons, it was actually the first container add-on before they made the multiple containers one,
Uh-huh.
is called FireFox container. Download that one, run it in parallel to the because what it does, everything that has to do with Facebook container will go to the Facebook container automatically, and it's good.
It seems like you
because
told me. It seems like you told me about that before, but
the reason it's good is because, especially after you clean up, well, in your case, you're working with temporary containers, so you're good. But from that point forward, everything you do with Facebook will be limited to a single container, and nothing else will be in that container. And Facebook specifically is important because of their cookie tracking on other sites. So it compartmentalizes all of your Facebook activity just to one single container. And that makes things easier because you can't really use Facebook without logging in. And that's why
right. Yeah, I understand.
So that is the only situation I find that using a specific container for, I do it for Facebook, and using the regular container plugin I use for work, I use like a work container where I always need to be logged into my work accounts and stuff like that. So
you actually made an interesting point. I mean, the Google machine wants to track everything you do.
Mhm.
And I'm confident that there's stuff in Chrome that does tracking, even if you try to turn it all off, and certainly through Facebook and all that.
yes,
Is
Firefox.
no, it's Firefox being open source, and all these developers who are scared of the government listening in on their fillings in their teeth or whatever it is Firefox really a much more, I hate to use the word secure, that's so overused because we're not having our security breached, we're giving it away. Is Firefox less open to the Google machine than say Chrome is? Are there really considerations that make sense to use Firefox as opposed to Chrome for that reason?
Well, I, I'll skip the security because the security is pretty much the same, but the privacy, and I'm guessing that's what you're
That's what I'm
asking for.
shooting for.
Yeah,
I was trying to
yeah.
throw that.
So the privacy, Firefox is much better. It's not 100% foolproof, but um, Firefox allows adding extensions that help on privacy that Google doesn't even expose the API to. So, and by default, Firefox tries to be as transparent as they can about what is shared with the world. And they have tons of tools that they create, not only third party, that they create that expose this and show this. They have one featured, I don't think, I'm not sure it's theirs, but it's like they worked on it, called Lightbeam, I think it's the name. And once you install it and you use your browser for a while, it creates this mesh of interconnection between websites that you can see how much you are exposed as for your browsing behavior, which is very interesting. But yeah, Firefox is a lot better and on preventing who's listening, or at least letting you know the extent that you've been listened. Firefox out of the box comes with they call it content blocking, I think. Yeah, content blocking, which it's not an adware, it's not an ad blocker, but any interconnection of scripts between sites, they limit it to very specific uses by default. And so you're a lot more secure. The sites you are on are usually talking only with already the sites that are within their ecosystem, and anything that goes to an external site is at least blocked. So it's better. It's definitely better on that front.
But you're saying it's better out of the box, not just with extensions.
Oh yeah. Out of the box, it's better from start. I'm guessing it's not foolproof, right?
Well, nothing on the internet's
Yeah,
foolproof.
right. Yeah.
By the way, Amnon, he's echoing.
Mhm. No, I mean, and if you're using those containers, supposedly it's even more uh,
Oh yeah.
privacy aware.
The containers they changed my behavior. I didn't think I cared about that, right? But now if I one of the things with containers, you can't install it on the mobile app or on the Android, right? Containers doesn't work on the Firefox there. But they do have Firefox Focus, which is like a slimmed down Firefox browser, which every time you start it, it's a new session, which is almost as good, right? And I thought I didn't care about it before those options were there. Now that they're there, I really like it. It has nothing to do with me, feeling ashamed by anything that I do. I just like being a clean slate on the net, on a
You
search
don't have
on.
this is something that
Yeah,
really is bizarre. I mean, I was asking Nick, I actually I used or tried to use a Tor browser.
yeah,
It also has built-in VPN. I don't know if you can turn it off. I couldn't find a way to turn it off. And I believe it's a browser that EFF, Electronic Frontier Foundation, I believe it's a version of Firefox that they modified open source.
right.
It seems neat and it works because I guess what it does is it limits all of the metadata that the browser exposes to the website. For example, if you go to a website to make comments, which there are a couple of websites that I go to, they're political. and I post to them anonymously. Absolutely nothing abusive, absolutely nothing that if somebody says, "Hey, we know you put your name on this, it's a problem." Nope, I absolutely would stand up and say, "Yeah, I posted that." But it's actually most people there post anonymously, and the idea is, what would you say if you don't have to worry about morons coming after you and trying to intimidate you and burn your house down and all that sort of stuff?
Oh, so that's where you talk about chemtrails.
Actually, I make fun of chemtrails there. I probably have. I'm not sure I have on this one particular site, but it's just a political discussion site, and they allow anonymous posting. It's fine. They don't
Yeah, yeah.
mind. But the problem is that on this one site that apparently they've got geofencing, and the Tor browser uses a VPN that's out of the country, so it won't work on that site. And so what I do, just because I mean I've posted enough there without using a VPN, without using the what's the browser called whenever the second one, the incognito mode.
Hmm.
I mean, if the guy really wants to figure out who I am, he can. He's probably got my IP address from some other stuff anyway, so it's not like it's a big secret. But it's just a matter of, if I don't need to tell that stuff, why should I tell it? So what I'm looking for is and I haven't really spent any time on it, if is whether there is a way to turn off the VPN on the Tor browser.
I'm pretty sure there is. I'll investigate it. It's been a while since I used the Tor browser. Now, the thing with Tor said the VPN goes through. The VPN in Tor is unique because everybody that's running a Tor browser can also be a node that something goes out of. So you're hopping. Every transaction comes out from a different IP. That's
Yeah.
what that Tor does differently than other VPNs.
Well, then that's not good, because if somebody's using it for uh, an illicit purpose and it's got my IP address on it.
Well, even if that's the case, by the way, I think it's switched off by default. But even if that's the case, only a single transaction will go through there. So let's say he's downloading an illegal file, for example, okay, or I don't know, browsing porn, and he doesn't want anyone to know it. Even if your IP is interacted there, it is interacted only for a single request. So there's no body of traffic. There's no profile that can be built based on that transaction.
Well, when you say profile, maybe that means two or more transactions, and I understand that. But if I mean, gosh, I mean, like I do, some terrorist is probably going to use it to make a terrorist threat. And if they use a Tor browser to make a terrorist threat against the UK government, and then all of a sudden there's a big bang that follows, they're going to come to my IP address and say, "Are you a terrorist?"
Yeah, but so that's why by default it is, as far as I recall, it is switched off. I'll download Tor browser now because I haven't done it in a while, and I'll take a look at it and I'll tell you what I find.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I've used it once or twice just to try to log into this site, because again, I really I don't have any reason to anonymize what I'm doing. I just would like to. Part of it's just an academic exercise, because to me it is ridiculous that modern browsers, like Alan's saying, it's ridiculous that websites can grab such information, such as where your battery is on your computer, what the computer name is, how many hard drives you have. That information doesn't need to be shared.
You should look at
Exactly.
purchasing a VPN, Mike.
Well, I mean, I'm not going, because I use it so infrequently, and then because it's so unimportant, I'm not going to spend money on it.
Okay. Well, there are free Chrome browser extensions, for example, UltraSurf,
I have
which
it.
okay, well, there you go.
And that's really what I use, because believe it or not, you remember, Nick wouldn't remember because he's not old enough, but back in the old days, we used to really gripe about not getting static IP addresses for whenever we first got broadband in terms of DSL or whatever constantly on the internet. We used to really gripe about not being able to get static IP addresses. Now with AT&T, it's not guaranteed, but every IP address is static. And in fact, if you go through them and get them to change it, it's an act of Congress.
Oh, so it's easy.
Jason
Yeah.
is saying something about Brave browser.
Never heard of it.
Brave is well, yeah, they're a contender. There's a browser also called Iron, which is Chrome, but focused on privacy because it's an open source. It's actually Chromium, right? It's the open source project behind Chrome, and there's a lot. There's a lot. Tor is unique. I can't say Firefox is unique, right? Firefox is copied all over. Brave is I think Brave actually started as a mobile browser, and they went over to provide also PC based.
The folks over at Gab actually have their own web browser. It's called Dissenter, and based on their open source comment service, their like web comment service that they're betaing right now, so you can download that. And they say that it's built on Chromium, but their big thing is they add a comment section to a lot of things, and they do a lot of blocking on tracking and whatnot.
I don't understand these new products getting really good domain names. I'm sure Dissenter.com was not available for registering last week or 2 weeks ago or whenever, 2 years ago when they started this project.
Or they gave it that name because this domain name. Oh,
No, Descender.com is not the Gab one.
it is.
Yeah, this SENTER.
This I'm looking at is DISSENTER on the Twitter post.
Yeah, DISSENTER.
That's Dissenter.
Oh,
Correct.
okay.
But that's them though.
So there's also a DE Center.
Yeah, it's Center. Yes. Yeah, that's probably somebody else.
That's somebody else.
Oh, it's definitely somebody else. Let's talk about privacy for a second. Or excuse me, not privacy, piracy for a second. Oh, here you go. Here's a great example.
What's that?
Well, no, because this is important here. We always talk about piracy. Spotify says that they have 100 million paid subscribers. Double what Apple Music has. So 50 million for them. 150 million people paying anywhere from $7 to $15 a month to not pirate music because it's just more convenient.
And because it's priced reasonably. They're the only ones who are doing it right. I can say it for sure. Because their catalog, I can't say it has everything, but it has enough. And the price point is good that you are not feeling ripped off. You're feeling that you're enjoying the service. Yeah. I am the $15 one. I pay for the entire family, and I've never looked back. And I've never paid for music, right? This much, probably since I was a teenager, going to the CD store to buy CDs, right? So it's like, and I love every moment, and I use it almost every day.
There's something about the convenience of Spotify and Apple Music and everything else. You never have to. I've never not found a song on there.
On Spotify, no.
No.
I tested. I like for a long time. I try to stay away of Spotify, thinking the mainstream one would be crappy. Looking for other solutions, looking for and I eventually just I went through the Google service, and I went through and Google service has its own merits for its own, but they have a problem. They are centric on the Google ecosystem, and that means that if you have an Amazon Echo, you can't use Google Music properly, right? And the same goes for the Amazon system, which is okay. Their catalog is smaller, but still pretty okay, but centric on the Amazon ecosystem. And because Spotify is ubiquitous, it's everywhere. It's fantastic.
Amazon Music is not very good. Their catalog, last time I used it, was so incredibly limited, I couldn't believe it. Even with the paid version.
Well, I don't remember I had problems with the paid version, but I'm looking for older music anyway, so
Yeah.
maybe that's the key. I know my son was okay with Amazon Music.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was okay, and he likes rap a lot and a
If
lot
it's
of
a lot of
new
new
stuff.
mainstream stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's mainstream what he listens to, but yeah, definitely. Mainstream is always easy.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It's also very easy to pirate, but it's always easy to also get it legal and cheap. So
Yeah. Well, this should be a good wake up call for these video streaming providers, because I mean they're making real morons of themselves.
oh yeah. Well, it was that way. If you remember Netflix streaming when it's before it had substantial competition, right? It was that way. But let's say with Disney now opening their own streaming packages, not only that, like 3 or 4 different services that you need to buy separately, and pulling their content out of Netflix, for example, they're pushing the audience to piracy again. That's my
Yeah,
feeling.
absolutely.
That is my feeling. So we'll see.
Okay. And Nick,
Yes, sir.
it must have taken you longer to do the front page of the specials than the rest of it.
I was hoping you wouldn't realize that yet, but we'll look at it later. You want to show a sneak peek?
I couldn't talk.
Show a sneak peek of it. Come on.
Show a sneak peek.
I was hoping you would just scroll right by it. Took a lot less time than
Great.
it took a lot less time than you would think.
I don't know about that.
You'd be surprised. I tell you what, that's a pretty damn good Photoshop.
That's like a used car salesman.
That's a new career right there.
Yeah, but you didn't dye the mustache.
No,
that's the whole idea.
God, I did. I tried, and it made him stick out too much, so I left it like that.
You've never looked so good.
That's the use of a clone and stamp tool in Photoshop. That's how you get a good effect like that.
Dang.
Cool.
Yeah.
So now on to important things.
That was important.
I thought about ordering a hard drive, and I filled up a USB hard drive, and for a number of reasons, I'm just going to get another one and start all over again rather than clean that one off. I had not thought about Prime Now for a long time. Have not looked at it. I looked at the app on my phone, logged in, found they have a number of drives, and what they will do, interestingly enough, I had not seen this before, is that they will deliver it within 1 hour for $10. Unbelievable. Right. So I said, well, okay, there's got to be a trick to this. And then I did some punching around. Then it said 1 hour window. If you want it within 1 hour from now, it's $10. If you want it within a like 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4 kind of window, it's $4.99. Well, I don't care about that. And I didn't see any other option. Then I scrolled around a little more and saw that they also offer 2-hour windows for free. And I said, let's see how that plays out, because I'm sure there's some hidden fees in here somewhere. I clicked on the 2-hour window, started clicking through, and sure enough, you get to checkout. And the difference between Prime Now is that they use contractors, so they want you to tip the driver.
They actually ask you to?
Yeah, they pre-enter a recommended tip.
Okay.
Now tell me if this is just me, guys. This hard drive is $90. free delivery, 652 tax. They want me to tip the driver 10%.
$10,
That
$9.
that would be okay.
Uh,
That would be in line with all of the with like Grubhub and a lot of those other I'm not agreeing with it, but I'm saying that is not
I'm
out
not
of line.
disagreeing with it. I'm just asking whether that seems right. I mean, it used to
Yeah.
be $4
Well, I'll tell you
flat.
this, if you've ever used a service like Grubhub or Uber Eats, if you wanted to get an $8 McDonald's burger and fries delivered to your house, Mike, you'd be looking at a close to $20 bill once you first pay the small delivery fee and then tip the driver. You'd be looking at a $20 bill for $8 worth of food. That's just how those services do it. Uber's
Well,
the same thing. You tip an Uber driver
it used to
8 to
be
10%.
prohibited.
What'd you say?
You used not to be able to tip a driver. Now they want you to.
Well, you can't tip them with cash, but you tip them through the app.
You can if you hand it to them.
I don't know if they can take that. I
They
haven't
can't.
tried that.
Who's looking?
Well, that might be true.
So
Yeah.
illegal to rob banks too, but people do it.
Do they? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right for so those guys are probably contractors, right? Not getting paid probably not getting paid hardly anything to actually work.
all these people that these days are delivering and they have the Prime on their trucks, the Amazon thing. These are all contractors. They don't work for.
But this is Prime now. This
Yeah, I
is
understand.
it's probably not the same delivery. These are guys who probably jump in their car at the warehouse and drive it straight over to Amnon's house.
That's
In
possible.
many cases, it would be worth it. My point is I'm not disagreeing. I mean, everybody's got to make a living. But let me ask you, what is the difference in cost between delivering a hard drive for a $9 chip versus delivering a can of hairspray for a $2 tip?
No difference.
Does it depend on where the thing is located?
Well, that would make more sense. What I'm saying is tying the tip for a delivery to the cost of the item doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, there's one aspect that you want the driver uh, to be aware of, and is the quality of the product, right? And usually the price has to do with that. But I agree with you, and I don't think I've ever paid the recommended tip price on Prime Now because
You
it
going
never
higher or
made.
lower?
No, if I fix it, I fix it to go low, because it never made sense to me.
Well, I mean, you say you agree with me, but I'm not really stating an opinion. I'm pretty much asking a question because if I need that drive in an hour and they've got it and they can go get it and they can bring it here and I need it and I'm busy and I can't stop what I'm doing.
Right. I'm
That
not the only
is a
stop on the route. I
uh,
will tip. I'm not. That's my position,
but
right?
I'm
That's my
saying
opinion.
if I need it and can't go get it, that's a bargain.
Oh, still, if the price is still a bargain, yeah, I'm not going to cheapskate the driver because of that. But I will also not. I don't think it's right to pay on something this size, right? A delivery fee that is way too high.
Yeah. No, you talk about Uber. I had a couple of experiences with them. I called them to pick me up at my car repair shop. It's a little hard to see the driveway. The guy rode by, couldn't find it, didn't even he slowed down, but he didn't stop, and he kept going, and then I noticed as soon as he kept going, he said, "Missed pickup, $5 charge."
Hmm.
That's. But you can report the driver, right?
Well, I did. I
Yeah.
contacted them and said to them that, this is what well, we're gonna issue that $5 credit this time. I said, "Well, anytime this happens and you don't do it, it will be my last time, so you get to pick." But
Right.
there was another event after that, something happened. I don't remember exactly what it was. Something went wrong, and the bill was several dollars higher than it should have been. I contacted the company and I said, "What is this?" And they gave me some lame explanation. And they said, "We'll be glad to refund it." I said, "No." I said, "That it was a good driver, and I think it was probably an honest error, so we'll just let it go this time. I don't wanna cost the driver any money because of that, but you may have a training issue.
Mhm.
So they probably docked the driver and kept the money.
But Mike, I was going to also get in on this Prime now. Did you check the price of that drive on Amazon as the on the website?
The
Was it
same
a
price.
was it a
Sort of, yeah.
different was it a different charge?
Same price.
Same price. Okay.
It's the same catalog. So when you're on Amazon and something is in the Prime Now warehouse, then those are the
Yeah.
items you can get same day,
Right.
and it's the same price.
But I mean, as much as I hate Amazon, I mean, give them props where they're due. There's a book that a friend of mine wanted me to read, and I read way too much and have way too many books. But because of something we were working on, he wanted me to, actually he didn't want me to read. He was telling me about it, so I wanted to get the book. I logged in. This is like 8 o'clock at night. I log into Amazon. The book is $14, and I look at it, and it says free 1 day delivery. I said, well, I'm not going to buy $35 worth just to get the book here in 1 day. So I put it in the shopping cart, expecting to figure out if there was anything else I needed to order at the same time to get it here quicker. If not, I would just get 2 day delivery. And I get to the checkout, and there's no free. It's $4.99, but free delivery if you add $20 more worth of. It said free delivery, and I clicked on order, and the book came the next day. A $14 book, 1 day delivery. I mean, it had to be in stock in Raleigh.
Probably, yeah.
So I make it a, I shouldn't say this because I'm being sort of funny, but I make it a point not to buy anything from Amazon unless they get screwed on the delivery.
I'm not fast enough with this.
I hate them.
Anyway,
Somebody said the other day that he made a really good point about Amazon. He said, what do most people think Amazon is?
a
It's
The
bookstore.
everything shop.
People think it's a People think it's a service to buy things. It's not.
It's not. It's just a delivery
It's a
service.
delivery service. Yeah.
Because you go there, you tell them what you want. If there are reviews, the other people put them in there. They do that as a courtesy. You don't talk to a salesperson to ask which one they recommend. It's just a lookup service. All they are nothing but a logistics company.
Well, logistics, yeah, but they still hold the stock. Like
That's
most of the stuff that you want to buy, the Prime, right? Everything that's marked Prime, that's already in their warehouse. They're a procurement, they're a distribution operation,
I
not
know,
just
but their whole
delivery.
they are selling the same crap that everybody else has, the same stuff you get over at Best Buy, all the same stuff they've got. They don't
Right.
produce their own products per se. They
But
will brand some of 'em.
you're looking at it from your point of view. Remember
Yeah,
that
but mine's right.
they are selling the services to the sellers,
Mhm.
right? And that's
They
their
are a
business.
logistics company.
Yeah.
I mean, we know some people in the logistics business, and their job is nothing but to take the product from the manufacturer and get it either to the consumer or to the dealer. They operate trucks, warehouses, things like that. All they are is a logistics company.
Well, that's when you brush off their customer support. That's when you brush off their cloud services. That's when you brush off a lot of things,
I'm not
right?
talking about their server business and all that. That's completely different. I mean, that's absolutely different. But I'm talking about the part where you log into Amazon.com and you order a book. That's nothing but logistics.
Yeah, but that's true for every shop, right?
If you go into Best Buy and you want to know which refrigerator to buy, if you're lucky, you can get somebody to come over there and tell you, well, you don't want this one because the ice makers break all the time. Now you take a look at this one, and by the way, reach up here and pull on this door. Feel what it's like when you open this door. Feel how strong that seal is. That makes sure your food stays cold. That's what a retailer does. That's what a dealer does. They're supposed to do a value add. With regard to the product on Amazon, overwhelmingly, they do not provide any value add. For example, if I decide to order this hard drive today from Amazon Prime, whatever. Is there really any value add by Amazon to ship me a hard drive? They ship 25,000 of them a month or whatever it is. No, they're just handling the logistics. They got it from Seagate or Western Digital, and all they're doing is getting it to me for a profit. That's logistics.
But they still provided you with the value add of the reviews, even though they didn't. I agree, they didn't do anything on their own to gather them except being reputable enough for people to come and test them and buy them.
Yeah, I
Right.
don't use
But
the word reputable with Amazon very much, but I get your point.
I mean, the fact that you don't put them in high regard, other people do. So that's what reputation is about, right?
Sure, but they'll learn.
I don't know. Reviews on Amazon, I think, are overrated.
They
Maybe-
are.
maybe-
That's why I use other services to vet them. But when you
Right.
have an overwhelmingly, when you have a product with, I don't know, like 5,000 reviews, right, and you average them, that is a power that you cannot
Right.
ignore, right?
Hang
It is
on.
very effective.
Glad you brought this up because the fact of the matter is Amazon is, and the reason I don't like them is they go in and edit reviews to make them whatever they want. They delete negative reviews and positive reviews because we have documented it. If they don't agree with something socially or politically, they will go in and they will screw the numbers around. In fact, they've even gotten worse now. They've started doing digital book burning. They've started not carrying legitimate books that they don't agree with the content.
Yeah, but
it's
how does it change? That's one aspect, and it's problematic on its own, right?
No,
Uh,
it's not
no, no,
problematic.
no. What I mean is, um, if you're selling a product, I'm not with books. It's a lot more complex because with a book you're selling an idea also, right? But when you're selling a product, if the comments are just offensive, right? There's no use to it. It's a commerce site. It's not a political discussion site.
But see, Gall, with all due respect, let's just make up a hypothetical, okay?
Yeah.
Because I don't have any inside track at Amazon. I can't prove anything beyond what I see. And the accusations I've made so far, I have seen them. Nick has seen them. Books that were ending up at 1 star, and they go in and delete all the negative reviews, and it ends up at 5 stars because they don't agree with the topic. That's editorial content, and they have the right to do that. I'm not saying that they should not be prohibited from doing that. They can do whatever they choose.
Well, I
They're
know that the situation you're talking about was I know what book you're talking about, and Amazon's argument would be, well, none of those people own the book and or read the book. They're leaving a negative review based on the author of the book or whatever. Yelp does the same thing. So does Grubhub.
But
In that specific case, people
they
were leaving negative reviews based on the author
I
of the book.
I get it. So what if they're going to become a guarantor of the quality of the person making the review, they must be consistent. That is my
Well,
complaint.
I don't necessarily know if I'd use the word guarantor, but
That's a
what
legal word.
No, they.
but what in that situation, that was what they were the reviews of that book were getting trolled. That would be the proper term to
That's
use the word
I'm
troll.
not talking about the just one book.
Okay, well, I've only seen that once, and it was with
Yeah,
a
I
book.
got that. That was the most extreme example
Yeah,
we've seen.
yeah.
And I don't disagree with removing fake reviews. I have reported reviews that were probably done by people who read the book, but they're sitting there, they're giving the book a 1 star review because it was received with a torn cover.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff like that. They don't police the stuff that should be policed. They're more interested in policing their own agenda and deciding which books they will not sell. Look, they can do whatever they want. I am all for that. I would not be in favor of government regulation to force them to be fair and balanced. I am absolutely opposed to that. So what is my recourse? I don't buy from them. If I can find what I want as fast as I want it, reasonably the same price, even if not a little more expensive, and not have to buy from Amazon, that's what I do. They play games. They on this Prime accounts, they played some dirty games on it because I was an early adopter at $49, and now it's what, 149 or whatever the nonsense is. I mean, they're pricing themselves out of the market, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that those reviews just don't cut it, and misleading.
Yeah, I had another thing I was going to say about some of the reviews, but I got distracted and I've forgotten what it was. But oh, let me ask you, it was the hypothetical. So, Gall,
Yep.
let's suppose that a hard drive manufacturer comes to Amazon and says, "We really need to sell more hard drives. You're our biggest customer, and we have a good relationship. We make good hard drives, so we really want you to sell more." It would be really nice if the negative reviews on our drive disappeared and the ones made on our competitors' products were, I don't know, maybe moved to the top of the list. Do you think we could do that if we gave you an extra 5% discount on the drive and you don't have to lower the price on your website? Would you be in support of them doing that?
No,
I wouldn't either.
but I've never encountered that. I've never researched that either, right?
Well,
So
there's a
I
lot of
might be
things going
wrong.
on you don't know about. Well, you would admit that, would you not?
No, of course, there's a lot of things I don't know about, but
I
there
don't know
are
that's
things.
going on. I'm just asking you, hypothetically, would you be opposed to that if you knew it?
Of course,
Okay.
but that's why we use. Look, I used to um, about I think maybe 3 years ago, they started cranking down on sellers who would distribute their products for free in favor of reviews, right?
It's okay.
And no, fantastic. And there were large rings of these. There were sites dedicated. I think these sites are still on. It's just Amazon has changed a lot of the policy around that. So what would happen is, and I participated in a few because I thought it was cool. I thought, hey, I'll get some free stuff. I'll write an honest review, and see where it takes me. See what stuff I can get. And indeed, at the beginning, it's like a rush. You get some stuff in the mail. They usually do it by giving you a coupon because they want you to be a verified purchaser on Amazon. So they give you a coupon, you punch in the coupon, you get the item for free, and it's in the mail a few days later, and then you need to write a review. Most of this is crap, right? Most of the products that are being pushed to the site, they're not good. And the and even though the seller never states you must give a good review, right? The moment you do post a bad review, two things happen. One is they contact you very friendly, asking if they can help because they've seen the bad review and they want that changed. So it's everything here is the seller. It's never Amazon. It's never, because Amazon is just the platform they use, and it's just the most
They're just a
effective
logistics
platform.
provider. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the most effective because everybody uses it. Same thing why Facebook is so popular because everyone's there, right? Uh, uh, and then, of course, if you say, "Look, what you sent me was crap. I'm not taking it off," they have no recourse. They can't even complain to Amazon about it, but they stop sending you stuff. Not a bad thing, but it's just this wheel always changes. That gives you an insight where you understand, especially on a page with, I don't know, 5 to 10 reviews, probably most of them are not real reviews, not from people who bought them,
I
right?
can't remember where it was, but one of the websites I go to, it may have been, I mean, there's several sites, several, I don't care about the sites, it's the companies I really like. One is called markertech.com, Marketek. They carry a lot of audio and video things. I used to like B&H Photo a lot. I don't buy from them so much anymore. I used to love BSW USA. I don't buy from them anymore because there are other companies that do things differently that I like a lot better. But one of these sites that I go to that I really like, the only thing I could figure is that there had been a lawsuit that one company had been sued because they were publishing reviews without disclosing that they were pursuant to free product. One of these companies, I don't know, it may even have been Lowe's, for gosh sakes. One of these companies that I do business with apparently got cold feet and decided they were going to disclose that when these reviews were subject to having received free products, free merchandise. Every one of them. Every one of them. And so I'm looking at this stuff and say, okay, I don't have a problem. They disclosed it. You realize this review may be biased, but how do I get on that list?
Exactly. But you were reading the stuff for the good reviews.
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, though, when I read reviews, I always sort when I can. I always sort for the negative reviews first.
Yeah.
But
I actually don't look at the
negative.
negative. I look at the middle ones.
I look at the
Yeah.
negative because you have to if once you learn how to read through them, you can tell which ones are people that are just pissed
Right.
off.
Right. But that's the thing. I don't want to start with the pissed off because
Oh yeah.
yeah. So
Get to them. I mean, everybody. I mean, people go in. It's just like podcasts. People go in and rave over this particular podcast, and you turn in and listen to it, and they're using audio over their webcam mic. I mean, I start with the negative part, and let's get to it.
well, I think we got 2 Mike-isms today. I start with the negative part, and I don't do business with Amazon if I can.
Right, but okay, I'm glad you said that because that's the other point I was gonna follow up on. I'm not a hypocrite. I admit that I am and continue to doing business with and will continue to do business with Amazon, but I will only do business with them when I can't get it somewhere else equivalent price or reasonable delivery, whether it's pickup or whatever. I would much prefer to like this hard drive. I'm not going to order it rather than pay the $9 tip, which is what they think is fair. I can actually get the drive without the tip and $10 cheaper at Staples, which is less than a mile from my house. So this afternoon, I'm going to go pick it up. And I've got it today, and all is well. And I haven't been labeled as a cheapskate because I don't want to pay a guy $9 to drop off a hard drive. So okay, all's fair in love and war, and Amazon misses another sale. Okay, they don't care about me.
No, probably they don't care about any individual. I agree.
Where customers, when you get that big, customers are what are called fungible commodities. You lose one, you gain one. Arnie says he uses Walmart sometimes. Well, I do too, when absolutely no one else has it. Walmart is exactly across the street from the Staples here. If I want something, I go down there and pick it up. If they don't have it, I'll get it somewhere else. I don't like all these companies that capitulate to
Walmart is trying, and they are making strides in competing with Amazon.
Closest Walmart to me, Alan, is 0.9 miles.
I got you beat. Mine's 2/10.
Yeah, well, I got more money than you do.
Okay, well, we know what, Mike. I'm sick
All
of this
right.
crap. Why don't you go order some garbage from Amazon and complain about it on Twitter? All right, I'm sick of your crap.
Nick, are you ready?
I have an $18 tip.
Nick, are you ready for the specials?
I am. If you want to.
All right. Let's do it.
Okay. I'm gonna show us that slick picture on the front again. Look at that. You ever have one of these?
Do I have one of these? No.
Did you ever have?
No.
A candy? No.
I don't know. So there's Amnon trying to sell. I was gonna put the before and the after, but I decided against that. Yeah, pretty good. All right, let's start with Staples. We've talked about this many times, but the cheapest and most efficient way to I'm going to use the word restore for lack of a better term, but restore an older computer is an SSD. Memory and whatnot is great, but if you can throw an SSD in a 10-year-old computer and it will perform on par with a lot of modern day systems. So Staples here, the P&Y's got a whole bunch of memory on sale, but here's two SSD prices: a 240 gigabyte one for $35 and a 480 gigabyte one for $60, which is pretty on par um, with what some other manufacturers are selling their drives for. The problem with buying them online is the prices fluctuate all over the place. Here's a laptop, a Dell with a Core i3 processor, 15.6-inch screen. This doesn't have an SSD, but it does have Intel's Optane, which acts as kind of hybrid memory SSD storage. Um, I think it's pretty safe to say I would not buy a laptop that doesn't have an SSD unless it had something like Optane. And for 350, you really can't beat that price. And then it does have the 1 terabyte spinning drive with it. This is a cool little machine from Dell. It's one of those two-in-ones that'll fold back. It's got 12 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabyte SSD and a 14-inch touchscreen for $600. Here's a Seagate Backup Plus hub external hard drive, meaning it's got a couple. It will pass through USB as well, so you don't lose a port if you're on a laptop with one or two USB drives. 4 terabyte for $89.99. Staples has got paper on sale. I know Mike, of course, stepped away. He's the big paper buyer here, but you can buy both either reams, 500-page reams, or cases. Both are buy two get one free at Staples. Here's the Brother HLL2320D mono laser printer. I don't believe this one has networking based on the fact that it doesn't have an N in it. But that's pretty easy to circumvent with a Raspberry Pi and Cups, which is an open source printer server. $89.99 for that. And here's a pretty good price on an Epson printer. These Epsons are nice. The Workforce line is really nice. The WF4720. It's a wireless all-in-one printer, and that's $100. And I've never seen one of these before. This is a at-home or at office laminator. You can find a better price elsewhere, but I thought this product was pretty cool. It'll do thermal and cold laminating. So if you're somebody that's making badges or things that you need to be laminating, this thing was about $150 on Amazon. So uh, I don't know. You need a laminator. It's the Saturn 3i 12.5 inch thermal and cold laminating machine. And all that stuff's at Staples. I will say quickly on Staples, they don't seem to be embracing anything besides printers and computers. You'll see when we talk about Best Buy and Office Depot that they're selling gaming products and other things, but Staples just doesn't seem to be doing any of that. All right, let's go over to Best Buy. Here's a pretty good price on a Lenovo. They're getting into a game. They're not getting into it. They've been into it for a while, but they're starting to advertise it more. I've seen ads. I've seen that they're sending YouTubers uh, laptops to review, and I've seen actually Facebook and Twitter sponsored posts from Lenovo. They've got their Legion line of gaming laptops. This is the Y530 15.6-inch gaming laptop. It's got a Core i7, 8 gigabytes of memory, and a GTX 1050 Ti with a 1 terabyte hard drive for a gaming machine. I think it makes sense to have that spinning drive in there, and you can always boost it. There is an extra slot in there, so you could put a 256 or 500 gig SSD for your OS, and then keep the spinning drive for all your games. That's at Best Buy, $849.99. Here is an Acer, their Nitro line, which is their gaming line. This is a Core i5, 8 gigabytes of memory with a 1050 Ti. This one, though, only has 256 gigabytes of solid storage, so you might want to swap that out for a 512 or even a 1 terabyte, as you'll burn through that storage pretty quickly with games from Steam. If you're looking to get into photography, you'll find these Canon and Nikon both have these kits that are available. Um, this one comes with an 18 to 55 millimeter lens, and I believe it was a 70 to 300 millimeter lens. But this is a Nikon D3500 DSLR available at Best Buy for $399.99. If you broke your phone, if you're I don't know, maybe you're a paranoid person, you need to have an extra phone, like I do. I keep all my old phones, at least one old phone. Here is a an unlocked blue smartphone, um, and it'll work on, all the US carriers, and it's $170. So if you, wanna keep something as a backup just in the house in case you were to destroy your smartphone, you could swap your SIM out and, be up and running with this, $169. Save 50 bucks on that. Here's a Lenovo all-in-one 23.8-inch touchscreen, all-in-one PC with an i7, 8 gigabytes of memory, and a 256 gigabyte solid-state drive, $849.99 for that. Pretty good price over at, Best Buy. Here's HyperX is one of their cloud gaming, headsets. This one is wireless though, which, might rub some people the wrong way. A wireless gaming headset, it works for PC and the PlayStation 4. It will connect to the PlayStation 4 via wireless as well. 89.99 for that. And finally, here's I haven't seen these before. I knew they existed, but, a SanDisk USB 3.1 Type C flash drive, for $12 at Best Buy. And finally, here's a PSA: do not buy this product. A 12-foot 4K HDMI cable for $45. There, it does not. That doesn't a 4K HDMI cable is not a thing. Now there are bad quality cables, but this is a ripoff. This is very similar to the Monster line of cables. The Rocket Fish. Do not buy these. These you are getting totally screwed if you buy one of these cables, and that's $15 off the normal price. So just I mean, buy Amazon Basic cables; they'll work just fine.
Yep.
Unless you're doing like crazy long runs, but most people aren't. So all right, that's at Best Buy. Finally, Office Depot, Office Max, a couple of computers here. Here's a nice Dell desktop with a Core i5 processor, 1 terabyte hard drive, and 12 gigabytes of RAM for $549, and a Dell Inspiron 15.6-inch laptop with a Core i5 processor, 8 gigabytes of memory, and it has that 256 gigabyte solid state drive that's on sale for $529. Here's another SanDisk USB drive. This is their part of their iExpand series, and it actually has a lightning connector on it to hook up to an iPhone. And your initial impression may be, wow, this will allow me to, transfer things on and off of my phone. And it does, but it doesn't. All of the file storage has to be, or most of the file storage has to be done through their iExpand app. So if you, for example, wanted to put music on your phone, you have to plug this thing in and then use their app to listen to it. So it's not ideal for that, but for pictures, it does work quite well. It is easy to transfer pictures off of your phone with this. And then it's got a regular USB Type A on the other side of it. That's on sale for $29.99. Let's look at this Dell 22-inch IPS monitor, $109 on sale. Normally $120. Pretty good price on that. The Canon selfie. I picked this out for Gal. He's mentions that he has a lot of parties over at his house. These are cool little things to use for parties. The Canon selfie line. I used a lot of these when I was back in New York when I was doing some wedding photography. And they're $100 printers. You buy the kits that I think are 25 or $30, and it comes with the ink and 30 or 40 sheets of paper. You can buy it either matte or glossy, and you can do it, hook up a phone via USB or even wireless via Bluetooth, and you can print pictures out on the fly. I think it takes about maybe 70 seconds, 80 seconds to print out a full picture, and it'll pull it through 3 times and put the different colors down on it. So that's a cool little device, and they're only $100. So check that out. Here's an MSI 1440p 24-inch curved gaming monitor for $189 at Office Depot Office Max. SanDisk has got a big solid state memory sale at Office Depot, similar to PNYs at Staples. You can get these are either mini or full size SD cards, or excuse me, micro or full size SD cards for $20 each for 32 gigabytes, and the price goes up as you buy more. And finally, an HP OfficeJet 3830. This is one of these buy it, use the ink that comes with it, throw it away office printers for $49.99, save $50. And then finally, I thought this would be kind of an interesting conversation. I haven't seen this before, but Office Max Office Depot is now doing cell phone screen repairs. Um, and I did a little research on it, and this may be a better solution than going to one of those stores in the mall. This Office Max Office Depot is a legitimate company. These pop-up stores in the mall, you might have if you have a problem, there is most likely no customer support to talk to. Um, the price is probably a little bit more, but if you need to get your phone repaired, or screen repaired, and you don't, like, for example, down here, there is no Apple store to take it to. I'd have to drive up to Raleigh. This may be a realistic way to do that. There's a 25% off coupon. They support iPhones back to the iPhone 5, and they said they'll support a whole number of Android phones. So stop in or call and check that out. But I think that's interesting. It's nice to see that Office Depot's trying to expand and not do what Staples is doing, which is sell brother laser printers and overpriced laptops. So that's specials.
Thank you very much, Nick.
Yep.
Well, Nick, you mentioned you didn't know about the USB-C USB sticks.
Mhm.
So let's see if this can be. So I'm using this.
Okay.
One side, right, has USB-C. The other side has a USB-A. The reason for the cover is, I don't know if you can see it. Let me try. There's a small the side. See this here?
Mhm.
Let me see if I can do it with the camera seeing the process. So when this comes out,
Oh, neat.
yeah. So this is extra storage for the PC and for the phone. And
Gotcha.
with Android, you don't have those
Restriction.
restrictions like in an iPhone. So this actually works pretty well. You can't boot from it. I seem to like booting. It doesn't register as a regular USB. So for that, I need a regular USB stick. But for storage, not for maintenance and stuff, this is fantastic. And I hook it up on my keychain. And this was like, I don't know, maybe $10.
But you had to buy the SD card too, right?
Yeah, but it works with a 64 gigabyte SD card, with a 16 gigabyte card. I bought this to be able to review quickly stuff from my dashboard cam, which uses SD cards.
Yeah.
Right, and this has become my permanent USB stick that is with me all the time. So it's very, very useful. So yes, there are. I also have one that is just a USB key with both A and C on the other side. But this with the SD card, the ingenuity of sticking the SD card in the filled part of the USB-A, this I had to try it and it works fantastic. So yeah, really, really nice piece of hardware.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, here is something that people with Dells need to know about. A vulnerability in the Dell Support Assist utility exposes Dell laptops and personal computers to a remote attack that can allow hackers to execute code, blah, 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 blah. Dell has released a patch for this security flaw on April 23rd. However, many users are likely to remain vulnerable unless they're already updated the tool, which is used for debugging, diagnostics, and Dell drivers auto updates. The number of impacted users is believed to be very high, as the Support Assist tool is one of the apps that Dell will pre-install on Dell laptops and computers the company ships with the running Windows OS. And systems that are sold without the OS are not impacted. But the point here is it's the Dell Support Assist utility, and they are not making it automatically updated. You have to go and update it. And that's why they say that you need to that you're still vulnerable. So if you do have a Dell and it has the Dell Support Assist, do your thing, go to Dell and download, and you're using it. If you never use the Support Assist, remove it, delete it. There's no reason for it. But if you are using it, if it's a new Dell, then update it to the latest version, so you're not vulnerable. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
No. All right. Where was this? Talking about privacy and Google seeing here and Google seeing there. Listen to this. Russia is one step closer to creating its own independent internet, at least legally speaking. Russian President Putin has signed into law new measures that would enable the creation of a national network able to operate separately from the rest of the world, according to documents posted on the government portal this week. It says, for now, the network remains largely theoretical, though with few practical details disclosed. In concept, the new law aims to protect Russia from foreign online restrictions by creating what the Kremlin calls a sustainable secure and fully functioning local internet. That's all they need over there. They don't want people to be aware of what's happening around the world, but they want them to use the internet. So here is perfect for their government to feed whatever they want to feed, and you are isolated from the rest of the world. I don't know how people will go for it. It's kind of hard to get people to stay in a room once they've been outside. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. And this has everything to do with what Google and Facebook and Twitter and all that are doing. But that's one thing that they can do.
Orange man bad.
Oh yeah, Orange Man bad, right?
His fault. The Guardian published, in my estimation, a very inappropriate article
Mhm.
this week, and I'd like to get Mike's insight on it. It actually came out yesterday. I didn't realize it was so soon. The title is 5G signal could jam satellites that help with weather forecasting.
Mhm.
And the premise of the article is that the Federal Communications Commission is auctioning off parts of the 24 gigahertz band to, or is thinking about auctioning off part of the 24 gigahertz band to cell phone providers for 5G. And the example used in this Guardian article is that 23.8 gigahertz is a frequency that is used to look at water vapor, obviously, which is, there's water vapor everywhere. There's water vapor in the air.
Mhm.
And this whole article is pretty much, I mean, it says that the new mobile systems to be launched this year, quote, will put lives at risk. And Mike, I think I know enough about how some of this stuff works that there is enough filtering that goes on between these different frequencies and these different bands that just because something is at 24.5 gigahertz and something is at 23.8 gigahertz doesn't mean that they're going to necessarily interact with each other or impede on each other. Am I incorrect with that analysis?
You are correct in what you said, but the real world is suggests that there could be a problem.
Of course, there could be a problem. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. But this article here is just total fear mongering, and of course, the weather community, not knowing anything about the technical side of it, is promoting this around as we won't be able to forecast weather anymore, and weather satellites aren't going to work. When actually, the majority of weather satellites are hanging out in the are doing a lot of their readings in the 40 gigahertz band anyway. Um, I saw it explained. I watched a YouTube video on it, and a guy um, just said essentially that the operators of these weather services just don't want something next to so close to it in band because it could cause problems, but there's been no actual studies, and this article doesn't source any studies or experiments or anything that indicate that there would actually be a problem.
Right, but the problem is once you build the infrastructure and there is a problem, now you really have a problem. You've got
Mhm.
back into the drawing board. They're trying to anticipate problems, and that's good. That should happen. And that's certainly a regular part of broadcast engineering. Case in point, the FCC recently, recently year, 2 years, whatever it is, have asked C-band satellite receivers and radio stations to register their receiving dishes with the FCC. And if you don't, whenever they sell that spectrum, if you haven't registered your disk, if they put in a service that interferes with your satellite dish that's unregistered, that's your problem.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
some sort of analysis that they're doing for this 24 gigahertz that we're trying to anticipate the problem. We think it's going to be bigger than some of these engineers at the FCC or, of course, cell phone companies. If they get dominance, they don't care. But I think it's good engineering to try to anticipate the problem. Really, I mean, I hate it gets really old for me to even have to say it, but you have to every time you read an article, a technical article, any kind of gosh, for don't read a newspaper, but if anytime you read an article, you really need to look at who the number one, what's the medium? Is it a newspaper?
Always.
Don't
Yeah.
waste your time. If it's The Guardian, if it's a website, then you have to decide, make your own decision whether they have any credibility. For gosh sakes, look at who wrote the article, try to figure out who this person is, whether he or she has an agenda. And then after all that, you got to use your own common sense to try to figure out what's going on. So the fear mongering, look, these quote unquote reporters, they make $20,000 a year and they are overpaid at that. They went to school to do journalism because they didn't want to get real jobs and have to work. So you just can't take all that stuff as gospel. Just use it as a stimulus to try to do your own homework.
Always a good advice.
So is it a true article? I don't know. Time will tell. But at some point, there theoretically should be testing to prove or disprove. But here's what it's based on. If you have a satellite system that's in what's ours in 2 gigahertz?
For what?
What is the satellite system we used to have? What frequency band is that for the
Oh, C
what?
band. It's C. I don't remember the frequencies. It's just regular C band.
All right. If there is we used to call them microwave tower. If there's a microwave tower nearby operating on the same or similar frequency, even though that signal is shooting horizontally across the earth, this signal vertically coming in through the satellite, they can't interfere.
Absolutely, they can.
All right, because they're on the same frequency.
Mhm.
Now, what what is probably not recognized as much is that if you look at even on the satellite receivers that radio stations use, the channel that you pick up is if you do horizontal polarization, you get one set of channels, and if you do vertical polarization, you get a second set of channels. You can put two different signals on the same channel so long as they're engineered not to interfere with each other. That's done all the time.
Dual pole.
Well, but the problem is that these signals out in the wild, where you've got one company doing this deal and another company doing that deal, they may actually clobber each other.
Yeah. Well, I think the frustration with this is that there still would be, if the FCC um, gives this ban to the five or auctions it off to the 5G providers, they will not. They still will have to operate within their frequency, within their band. I mean, this article points it out, or paints this picture in which the 5G is just running all over the spectrum. That's not going to be the case. They're not. I mean,
But this is where the politics come into play, Nick, because as you notice with a translator, what is one of the provisions of a translator? If there is interference, you are the secondary user on that channel and you have to accept that interference.
okay.
You have to accept
You
it?
have to accept that interference.
Wow.
If there's a primary user of the channel and you're a secondary user, if you cause interference to the primary user, you have to change your operation. If the primary user legally interferes with the secondary user is stuck with it. It's the same way with Wi-Fi. I mean, if Gall puts in a Wi-Fi system at his house, his next door neighbor's interfering with his Wi-Fi. He has nothing. There's nothing he can do about it. He and his neighbor have equal access, equal rights to that bandwidth, and they have to work it out between them. The FCC is not going to get involved so long as both sides are operating legally. So what I'm getting to, Nick, is the problem with this 5G spectrum sales is that whenever these companies are buy the spectrum, they are made automatically the primary users. Anyone else on the
Correct.
channel is even though they were first and have been there for a long time, they are now subject to interference provided by these new spectrum users.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen or read anything that indicates that it's going to be a problem.
Well, it may not.
And this article, and the problem is the weather community is circulating this article around because they don't understand technology, and I'm not expecting them to understand frequency, filtering on frequencies and stuff. I don't fully understand it myself, but it's being, touted through the weather community
It's
as
not really complicated.
well, but it is for them.
No, the sky is falling, get it?
Yeah, I mean, literally. I mean, and this article is talking about this is going to be a global problem and it is going to put lives at risk. That's bullshit.
It
Y2K.
I mean, yeah.
Well, the reality is it could do that because what we are depending on is government oversight to prevent that from happening.
Yeah.
Doesn't that scare you?
Well, it does and it doesn't with the FCC. I'm not sure.
It should.
Well, I'm not sure.
Well, you
The
should.
FCC is pretty stringent about that stuff. Now, you're going to make the argument, and I already know what argument you're going to make.
See
Is
if
that
you
these
know
cell
what
phone,
argument I'm
these
gonna
cell phone companies are going to do whatever the hell they damn want, and I totally understand that. But
that's only part of my argument. The part of the argument is that the government is so money is cocaine to the government. They are so addicted to money that not only are the cell phone companies going to do what they want, they will have to operate within legal parameters. If they're given X number of megahertz bandwidth and they exceed that, they will have to comply. They will get in
absolutely,
trouble if they don't comply. It is not hard for them to comply. So I'm not suggesting that they can quote unquote do anything they want, but I am saying that they are coming in with a hammer that they get to do whatever the heck they want with regard to a spectrum that I paid for it. It's mine. Well, it's not yours, and yes, you paid for it, and you've got unlimited free quote unquote use of it until somebody comes along and offers a higher price and then they'll sell it again. Look at what they're doing. How much money has the FCC cost TV stations by all the repacks?
oh, the repacks are screwing these TV
Tell
stations.
everybody what repacks are.
So with digital TV, this is something I didn't know about till recently. But with digital TV, which is there's no more analog TV, at least in the United States. The TVs or the broadcasters are actually broadcasting on channels like 34, 35, 36, and your TV is mapping that, for lack of a better term, mapping that to channel 10 or channel 8 or channel 6. They are not actually broadcast, well, because that doesn't exist. They are not broadcasting on UHF channel 6. They're broadcasting on channel 28, and they're all the digital TV stations are getting shoved in this little spectrum because the digital tuners in the TVs are decoding or translating that to channel 8. That's essentially what repack is. So they're having to get new antennas, new transmitters, move tower sites, provide new STL links because the FCC sold off the other frequency.
And to make it even worse, that as things move along, stations are being forced to change frequencies. And the
Yeah.
way you can, and people don't think anything about it, but you've probably already experienced it. You go to it doesn't happen with cable, so most people won't see it. But if you're using an over the air antenna to receive digital TV, and you go to your TV, and now all of a sudden you tune to, I started to say tune to channel 5. Nobody would do that. But let's say you're gonna tune to channel 22, and all of a sudden it's not there. Where's channel 22?
Rescan.
You've got to go into the setup on your TV and go through and do a rescan, and it will go through and find all the available signals. It will find channel 22, which may have been at 473.25 megahertz. Now it's at 396.75 megahertz, or whatever the numbers are. I have no idea what the numbers are.
Still
But
channel 22 though.
it's still channel 22, which is just nothing but a trademark now.
Yeah,
Because,
exactly.
for example, in the old days, channel 6 was something like, I forget what it was, 75 to let's see, starts at 88, so it'd be about 87 something, 81 to 87 megahertz or something. I forget what the numbers were. But that spectrum is gone now. That's used for other things.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's used for, what do they sell that off for? Isn't it some of it's probably with some 5G stuff. I'm not that
5G
high
is
up.
all over the place.
Yeah, I think some of it is for cell stuff. Maybe it's 4G stuff, I'm not sure. But
But
yeah, repack no, you're right, repack is absolutely screwed TV. Now, the argument that the FCC would make, and I would have a hard time arguing against it, is frankly that nobody's watching TV over there, or the numbers of people watching TV over there versus cable is so minimal that how big of a deal is it really? I would ascertain that argument. I don't know hardly anybody that has an over the air antenna. Everybody knows
okay,
cable.
now you have to be careful with that, because just because you don't know them doesn't mean they don't
I'm
exist.
not saying they don't
Hang
exist.
on. Hang on a minute. Keep your pants on. So
Fine.
my question to you is, how many people who do you know who are cutting the cord? And the reason I ask is because if you cut the cord, there's a really good chance, if you're in a major metropolitan area, that you're now going to, if you bother, pick up the local stations over in an antenna.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
But
that's OTA.
it is OTA. I got it. But it's a
And I think that number's going up.
well, it's going I would say in the next 5 years, it is going to go up dramatically. Comparison to where OTA was 30 years ago, I don't think it's anywhere close. Now in the
Oh,
next
it'll
5
never
or 10
get close.
years.
It'll never get close. And
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, not for technical reasons, but for convenience reasons. It's strictly marketing. I mean, when you think about it, one of the fundamental aspects of broadcasting in this country is that you, whether it's radio or TV, you can watch or listen for free.
Yeah.
It's if the and the concept was that if these broadcasters are going to be given a public entity, i.e., the airwaves, to use, it has to be available to everyone. Well, that went out the window years ago, but that was the original concept. And at this point in time, I'm not sure that this is what I read, but I think I read somewhere that some stations are petitioning the FCC to let it turn off their transmitter and to remove the channel from the community, because they only want to broadcast to cable companies, which they can do without a transmitter.
I haven't heard that, but I have heard a lot there's a whole bunch of AM stations that are petitioning the FCC to shut off their AM transmitters and keep their FM translators running
You
because of
say
the high
that
cost
without
of AM.
explaining what the story is. Tell what the story is with AM and FM translators.
So a lot of AM stations are getting what the FCC calls translators on FM frequencies. So you'll see, oh, okay, 1300 AM and 98.7 FM. It's a much smaller footprint in most cases, and a much lower power transmitter. but it is typically located in an area to reach the densest population of whatever market it serves. So the translator would be right outside of the city limits, beaming into the small downtown area of a city. Real basic example. Um, and people in that downtown area now don't listen to the FM, no longer the AM. And some of these stations are petitioning the FCC to shut off the AM and keep the FM. But that would make you can't have a translator for a frequency you don't have. So, due to the high cost of AM, you have to, in most cases, you own the land, or AM towers are typically it's the only thing on the tower. So you own the land, you own the towers. It's probably a 2 or 3 tower array. You have to keep them lit. Um,
The main
it's
thing is
just
power bill.
power bill. It can be very expensive. There's the one of the AM towers down here has to be relit, Mike. The cheapest quote they got is $125,000 to relight the tower. One single tower. They have 3. $125,000 a tower to relight it.
We only have to light one in an array.
Okay, well then maybe that's what they're going to do. But $125,000 to go through and put a new lighting system in the tower, which the current one is not up to spec and is not functioning. So,
How tall is the tower?
300 something feet.
Yeah, that sounds high to me. They're gonna get quotes and get somebody to beat that, I hope.
But that's the kind of cost. And I don't know how we got on this conversation, but
Well, we could talk about computers, but
Yeah,
I
and
don't
we
know.
need to.
Okay. I don't remember how we got on this conversation, but
but
yeah,
see,
I don't know.
all these radio stations with these towers, they
Right.
all use computers.
They do. I use computers all day.
But
Come on, a 286 is no longer a computer.
Oh, come on. We use a 386.
There probably is some 286 hanging out at some of these AM transmitter sites. You'd
Alan
be
makes another
surprised.
good point too that most people don't pay any attention to, and I guess because they really don't care. But over-the-air television stations do not use digital compression on their signals,
Oh, they
not
look
like they
great.
do on cable companies. I guess all digital is compressed to some extent because it's an efficient use of the bandwidth. But if you look at it over the air, a good quality over the air 1080p signal, 1080i versus a quote unquote 1080i signal on cable company. There, if you know what to look for with regard to fringing and noise and all that, there's really no comparison.
One of the best, and you're not going to like this, Mike, but one of the best digital frequencies in the country is Channel 5 in Raleigh. They've got some of the
They have
most.
been an industry leader since day one in terms
Yeah,
of technology.
yeah. They're
That their journalistic tendencies don't rival that.
they had there was a group at NAB that was demoing off their Channel 5's digital stuff at NAB. They had the whole booth set up and were showing some of their ATSC 3.0 stuff, which Channel 5 I think is the only one in the country doing that. So
Oh, they've always been. I've known some of the engineers over there, and I mean, these guys have carte blanche to buy whatever they want. They were encouraged to be industry leaders. They would go out and do their research. They would find out what they needed. Management would say, "Go buy it," and I would say that it has worked well for them. They have, uh, programming wise, the other stations in the market, from what I can tell, just can't compete with them. And I think that the content on the other stations is better.
yeah, well, that's changing from what I know from inside sources over there.
I'd be interested to hear that.
Yeah,
all right. So last week we were talking about PC Paint that Microsoft decided to keep.
that's what I made your picture in this morning. Paint.
Well, now the Apple users
Oh Jesus.
have a problem. In a new support document, Apple has indicated that its legacy photo editing suite Aperture will not run in future versions of macOS after macOS Mojave. The support document provides users with steps to migrate Aperture libraries to Apple's newer Photos app for Mac or Adobe Lightroom Classic. They ceased development of Aperture in 2014 and removed the software from the Mac App Store in April 2015. So if you are an Apple user and you're using Aperture, beware. Another interesting story here that's kind of sad A ransomware infection has crippled the operations of a US-based web hosting provider for almost 8 days now. Several of the company's disgruntled customers have told ZDNet. Impacted are all Windows-based servers owned by A2 Hosting, a provider of virtual private servers, VPSs, and WordPress hosting services. The infection, which took place last week on April 23rd, has led to a week-long downtime that A2 staff has struggled to fix, leading to an unending stream of complaints and desperate pleas for help from customers, bleeding money with each passing day of downtime. We had that situation, and I don't know what was the end with that email provider that got compromised, and they stayed offline for a long time. Here's another one, but here it's because of Windows. Everything is on Windows. So, needless to say, it's sad, and I sure am glad that from day one we decided to go with Linux. It's can you imagine having your business somewhere and the site goes down? And that was last week. It was 8 days. I don't know if they're back up.
Oh, you're talking about that email provider. I think
Yeah, I
booked
can't
them up.
remember that.
Well,
What
I'm gonna I'm gonna find them. For
Well,
the show.
I can tell you that we deal with this daily in my job
yeah.
because our software, one of its aspects, can help detect this attack while it's happening. And yeah, we can imagine. I know personal family member that got breached with that, and the way you get breached is really easy. You just click on something unaware, and the moment something get executes
Yep.
get executed in your machine, it starts spreading. So
Yep.
yeah, it's
It's no
the,
fun.
the only way to be protected from this, right? You cannot prevent it. I
Disconnect
mean,
your
you can do a
mouse.
lot of steps to prevent being exposed, but once something like this starts, you cannot prevent it. The only way is identifying where it's active and restoring from backup.
Yep.
So backup.
See,
An
I mean,
antivirus is great, right? But it won't solve the problem once you're infected.
I was always worried about that kind of stuff like this as far as backups also, because the bad actors on the other side, the ones who are trying to get us, think about it too. Say, oh well, they have a backup. If I was writing piece of virus, malware, whatever, I would set it up so it sits there on that server for quite a few weeks before it does anything. And then when what?
They do that.
And then the backup is worthless unless you have an older backup.
Well, yes and no. So the moment the software is activated, right?
Yeah.
It can be detected
Right.
theoretically,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you want to be able to do as much damage as you can as quickly as possible
Right.
if you want to hold somebody ransom,
Right.
right? First of all, the one thing that should always be true, and 100% of the times, and I'm not talking 99.9% of the time, 100% of the time is never pay the ransom. Not in this situation. Your data, even if they will somehow restore your data,
Mm-hmm.
right? it also means you will need to give them access in some way to the rest of your system. Your system will never be safe, right? So disconnecting, restoring the data, or even losing the data is probably a better solution than paying the ransom.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's one. Second, probably nobody knows your secrets, right? It's also part of the reason people pay ransom is they have something to hide, they have something they don't want to disclose, and they fear that it will be exposed. With these specific scenarios, that's not the case. It's a random, grab as much as you can.
Mhm.
You were vulnerable. You got unlucky most of the time. It's not. Of course, there are situations where it's targeted, but then the person will know it's targeted because he had, I don't know, a very beefy Bitcoin wallet somewhere or something. But other than that, it's like, yeah, staying safe. If you if you're not doing any shady things in the digital world, you're probably not targeted. So don't worry about that.
Well, but
And
the thing is, a lot. That's what I'm saying. A lot of people are getting those ransom uh, attacks on their home computer, not because they were
right,
targeted, but because
right,
they fell for it. They went somewhere and it was there, and bang.
right.
And you
So the
really need to keep backups going
yeah,
back. You see, like Mike was just saying that he filled up his external drive,
hmm
and instead of cleaning it, he decided to go with another one. Perfect. If you're gonna reformat your drive, or you're gonna put a new drive in your machine or whatever, reinstall the operating system, put the drive aside, keep it. It's a backup, and put, like I said, put a new drive in instead of repurposing the drive. It's always a better way to do it, and the longer period that you can go back with backups, the better off you are, because then you can do something to minimize, or to do away with a situation where piece of malware is sitting there on your computer waiting to do something. And they're not going to sit there for too long, because people will find out that something happens, and at that point they may be able to detect it even though it didn't run yet, and you lost. So most of the time offices, they do backups, companies do backups nightly.
yes,
How many are they keeping? I don't know. I mean, we go many weeks on our uh backup at Delta Force. It's done nightly, but I can go back a few months to restore something. It just makes more sense to do it like that, so that you will not have anything that was put there waiting to happen. But here's the situation, and yeah, Arnie is saying poor backup system by that provider. Absolutely. Absolutely. And obviously it got from one server to the next, to the next, to the next, and got their whole network. Um, that's again, I think, and this is my opinion, that's again a situation where, it's really easy to find somebody or to do it yourself, hosting on a Windows machine, point and click and all that, and yeah, you do it. When you do it with Linux, it's a little bit more complicated, and you need to get somebody that knows. I mean, look, I've been running Delta Force now for what, 20 years. I couldn't have done it. I couldn't do it by myself without Ron and Jason. I mean, there's always things that you don't know. I mean, I'm not a programmer. I'm not a system administrator. I can do certain things, but I can't do everything. And that's
Well,
why you need somebody like that. Those people with Windows, why are you using Windows?
no, I really think it's a matter of comfort zone. So
Well, it's very
people, when they see white text on a black screen
Yeah.
on their machine, they don't like it. It's because machines today, computers today, they have managed to obfuscate that part, that paradigm of computers completely.
Mhm.
The truth is that when you're looking at a machine, any machine, right, and the complexity of its operation, you can probably measure by, I don't know, the number of interactions you can do with it, right? If you go and you see a washing machine, right, if it had a keyboard, you would be really curious why it needs a keyboard, right?
Yeah.
What does
Yeah.
it need in order to do? But because it has 2 or 3 knobs, it makes sense to you.
Mhm.
A computer is so complex that you need 100 and something keys on the keyboard because you're going to actually speak and talk with it and do complex things with it.
Okay.
With Windows, right, and Mac and even the graphical interfaces in Linux, all of this is just hiding what's happening behind the scenes. So yes, it's about being able to understand, but you don't need to be a programmer. You need to be someone where the discussion you're having with the machine is inside your comfort zone. Backups should definitely be a staple discussion, and they are not. They're not. When it comes to the cell phone, they are almost transparent because the cell phones are manufactured to remain owned by whoever sold it to you,
Mhm.
right? Uh, they came in an era where everything was connected. The computers that we have at home, they have not been created from that point of view, and backup is an afterthought, right? It is a business decision. It is not. So it's just a matter of making it really, really comfortable for the user. And that's why machines like Windows, machines like Mac, they're a lot easier, right? Windows, when you install it today, Windows 10, they push OneDrive on you.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that is a best solution, but it is a solution where you're conscious that you need it stored. Of course, they're driving it for money because they want you to buy more storage, but it's still a matter of using that backup conscious uh, mindset, right? In this case, to drive a business, but it's also to drive your safety. The same thing with Apple and their iCloud, right? Because they were both Microsoft and Apple. They were late to the game of online storage, right? Only when they saw that it was a lucrative business, they stepped in.
Mhm.
But the more people use it, the more they are safer, right? Ransomware attack like this, if detected on time, the online storage at least will be intact, right? And you can restore from it. They actually, I think they position themselves today like that, and they have mechanisms. And it's not just them. It's like every cloud synchronized storage today. If there's too much change in a very little time, they do not sync. They ask for permission to sync, and they'll alert to say, check that you're not infected, and that you're doing this on purpose, right? Because otherwise you're going to lose a whole amount of data. So yeah, I mean, people are scared of Linux. They're mostly scared from because of the 100 and something keyboard interface, right? The complex interface of needing to have a discussion with the computer in a language not of their own, right? Need to run commands via command line, work with a lot of text instead of using something that is pretty, that looks like the washing machine, has a few knobs.
But this is all automated.
Yeah, but it's all automated on Linux as well. It's like 2 command lines and you're running. It's just a matter of not being afraid of reading the manual.
To get it there, yeah. Well,
yeah.
Well, anyway, it's sad to see that somebody's business is going down, and
Well, yeah, but let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. While you were having this conversation, I decided to run Malwarebytes on my computer. It's telling me there are 330 identified threats on my computer. And I scroll through the list.
There are pups.
Yeah, well, some of them are, but the ones that say this one says it's malware, and what is it? It's a freaking it's adware. That's not malware.
Right.
So I mean, this is if I was to look at this, I go, oh my god, I have 330 viruses on my computer. I'm scrolling through this. It doesn't like this Chrome extension I have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to understand it a little bit.
Yeah, but that's a huge problem for people. I
know.
mean, I'm scrolling through this right now. I'm afraid I'm not going to let this delete any of these files. I don't know what this stuff is. I don't think I have malware though.
The way that I run Malwarebytes and antivirus and all, first I run CCleaner, and I remove all the files that are temporary. So you minimize the results. If you go now and you run CCleaner, and you let
I run CCleaner.
Well, and you let it. Say it again.
I don't trust CCleaner.
Well, I've been using it for years and it's working. My point is there are other ways of doing it.
Yeah.
But you need to get rid of all the cookies, all the temporary files in your browsers and in Windows and everywhere, and then run Malwarebytes. Then it's going to come up with the real things that it can see there. Instead of having 300 and some, you may have 20 some.
Now I have 719 threats. It just keeps going and going.
Nah, that's nothing. That's just these are just temporary.
Doesn't like your games you're playing.
No, but seriously, that's the concern. But
it's a concern.
You say that, I mean, that's a huge problem because people always say install. If my grandparents ran Malwarebytes on their computer, they'd end up deleting half the stuff off their hard drive with this.
No, these people from Microsoft will call them and help them with it.
That's true.
Anyway,
so apparently I've got some adware I need to get rid of. I'll let it remove the adware. We'll see what happens.
Oh, you're gonna after you do that, you're probably gonna have to reboot the computer.
Oh, then I'm not gonna do it.
It'll ask you. Maybe with Windows 10 it won't.
All right,
but anyway, it's that time of day, guys.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever used eSATA?
What's that?
Has anyone ever used eSATA?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, no.
All right. So eSATA is external SATA connector, which, as I understand it, the only difference is that the cable is shielded.
The cable is shielded anyway, but the connector is different. The connector, instead of having that key, that L shape like, is just straight.
But it also, I'm telling you that the difference from what I've read is that the shield between the drive and the eSATA connector is shielded because it's outside the computer. So my question is, and by the way, you can use an eSATA connector on the motherboard as a standard SATA connector.
Right.
If it'll plug onto it. But my question is, if you have the right connector, eSATA connector, it does look different. You plug it into the back of your computer because you have an eSATA port on it.
Right.
What do you plug it into?
What do you mean? What do you plug it in? Oh, no. If you want to add, I added an eSATA.
My computer has an eSATA port on it. That's easy. Plug an eSATA connector into the eSATA port, everything perfect.
But wait a second. If it has,
you wait a second. So on the other end of the cable, you got to plug the other end of the eSATA connector wire into something.
No,
Typically, Mike, for an external hard drive.
Mike, if Okay, are you talking about the drive side or the inside the machine?
drive side.
You connect it to the drive.
All
SATA.
right. So,
It's eSATA to SATA.
well, but there are eSATA to eSATA cables.
Yeah,
There
I
is
would
no
know what to
no
use.
no there is no eSATA to there is no such thing as an eSATA. Oh no, there is. That's right. I never used
There
those.
is.
I just put another drive outside. And actually, when I liked it so much, and I didn't want to go through all this, all I did is I bought a 24-inch SATA cable, connected it to the port, just like you said, ran it through an empty slot in the back into a regular drive, and everything worked fine.
But it really
Yeah, I
depends eSATA to SATA, not eSATA to eSATA.
I used eSATA drive that came in a case like an USB drive just
Mm.
one time, not for long.
Now, if you said to me that you bought an eSATA enclosure and put a drive in it, or
Yeah,
bought an eSATA enclosure with a drive in it,
right.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
But my understanding is you don't have to do that. You can use a standard SATA drive on it as long as you use the SATA cable, because theoretically a ground only has to be connected at one end anyway.
Yeah, but if you don't buy that enclosure, you really have to be technical because of another reason.
power.
Exactly.
Well, no, but obviously that's not eSATA. That's eSATA P.
No, 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 no. I
Yes.
mean the cable, the
Look it up
case.
No,
now.
there are cables. What he's saying is there is a cable where power goes over eSATA.
Yes, it's called
Yeah.
eSATA P.
I don't know about that, but
P means power.
when you buy the external case, it has power just like a USB,
Sure.
and that works. But if you want to put it on a regular drive on the shelf, you just buy a longer SATA cable, and that's what I did. And I put it right behind the machine, and I ran power out of the machine with a cable into a SATA power connector, and I had an external and so to speak eSATA, and I still have one actually running on my one of my machines like that.
It seems that eSATA
So
was there to provide a solution that USB 3 took over
yeah,
uh,
speed,
for most consumers. Yeah.
yeah, the speed.
So yeah, and
Reason I'm
because
out of USB ports and I need one more hard drive on my computer.
mm,
Probably just gonna mount it internally anyway, but
Well,
it's sort of private
it's a
discussion.
whole lot easier, Mike, to just get a card. Do you have a room for another card?
No, and
Okay.
I already have a USB card in it.
Okay. With how many ports can you replace it with a card if you have two? You can
Well, that's a question because it has to use a
bus.
forgetting all the acronyms. What is it's
It has to
PCIX, PCIX 16, all of those.
PCIe.
Okay.
yeah.
The 4-port USB 3.0 cards required PCIe. And I'm not sure if I don't think I have a PCIe slot available. I have a PCI slot, but that's not fast enough for USB 3.0 multi-port
Right.
cards.
Yeah.
Right.
If you want to use a drive outside, then I would say just run a long cable. I mean, you're technical enough.
I am. I'm probably just gonna go ahead and use an internal. The problem is that I like these Lenovo desktop computers. They do a really good job, and they're the ones I buy are pretty cheap, but the one thing I don't like about them is the power supplies in them are undersized. That's why I don't run video cards and all that sort of crap. And so I probably would use an external power supply on it, even if I mount it internally, but that's another matter.
All right. Well, let us know. Meanwhile, we really need to finish because I don't want it to run over the 2 gig and then archive does not accept anything over 2 gig. I
I'm
don't
done.
want
You
to.
can hang up now.
All right, guys. Thanks, Mike, Gal, Nick. See you. And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing. Back up your hard drive and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. Tonight at 7, Nick Craig hosts Against the Norm. And at 9, Mike Phillips hosts The Crypto Culture Show. Both these shows are on Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7 FM, and you can listen to them on TuneIn. See you next week, everybody.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.